Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I just want to go into a little flow and then potentially do some energetic updates or do that in the next video. So we'll start with the flow and kind of see what comes through. So this is just where I drop in and connect with spirit, source energy, my higher self, angels and guides, galactics, all of our helpers. We all have them. I have a different type of style, the way that I connect in with mine, but we'll see how this one kind of turns out today. So I'm just doing some mudras and some movements to shift the energy slightly. These are not mudras I've learned, by the way. So I'm being called to share. They just come through. I just automatically do them. Granted, I am a yoga instructor, but the mudras, when I went through yoga teacher training, made no sense to me whatsoever. And we didn't really spend a lot of time learning the mudras, even though I have a book on mudras that I've never read, mind you. But what happens is sometimes when we have these energies come in, we're just activated. We remember them and we just know how to move the energies around. So I do this throughout the day. I do it when I'm doing healing, energy healing with my clients. I do the work on myself, and a lot of movement has been coming through for me again. It comes in cycles and waves. So I'll either have a lot of mudras, sound movements. I've been having all of the above lately, yet again. And if you think about it, we're in this energy or this soup of plasma and light and sound. So any of the movements that we make have an imprint in that space around us. And I always like to compare it to the ocean, right? So we're in this ocean. I think the soup reference came through years ago when I used to listen to Cryon. Cryon and Lee Carroll had a big impact in my life for many reasons, but he called it soup. And it gave me that visualization of the ocean, of water. And if you think about, hydrogen, oxygen, all of the plankton, all of the particles that are mixed into that water that become nutrients for the animals that live in the ocean. And we're no different in our elements or medium that we operate from within just happens to be air, but it is incorporated within this is all of everything that we're part of, inorganic and organic. So when we're doing movements and sound, we are shifting that frequency of the medium that we are all wrapped inside of, that our skin is moving through, right? That our bodies are encompassed within or encapsulated within. I'm just gonna do a little light language. I'm not sure if that sound got canceled out or not, but we'll find out when I go back and rewatch this. Shukuea ba ikuni wa heshiki kainea uatiti stu akuni bak ashte akuene. It is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. Shuku kuniwa et ishte bakuni kishi bawa het iadu kuni shishiki kiniwa et ishtikini. And we provide activations for those who feel these words, who feel these sounds, and even those who may not. When we use the word activation, even the word itself holds a frequency, a code, a codex, a combination of letters and a particular linearization that provide an activation, so to speak, within the memory attached to the meaning of the word, or the memory of what we have been taught that the word represents. And so therefore, we then activate our own energy and frequency, or initiate a movement or an idea or a concept that comes from us listening to the word activation. I'm having this picture of activate like it's a command, right? A command word that we might tell, say to whatever, or we might say to a computer, whatever it is. So many of us are turning on our complicated network of a grand schematic, and we are using this in order to move through the medium of our reality. Yet many of us have not necessarily fully embraced our complex core of energetic components and available or accessible key codes and commands. And we are in the process of learning from one perspective, remembering from another perspective, or embracing from all perspectives how to do this, or how to feel this, or what we are looking for. We are moving through this in the dark, some might say, and yet we are lighting the way for others who have come to play in this way as well. So let us enunciate this a bit more clearly. Yes, please. We play with the words in this type and style of enunciation, this type, if you will, of font, this signature of sound, this rhythmic exchange of words and a codex of frequency. For the words hold a sound, and the sound holds a frequency, and the meaning and the definition of what we are offering can be felt, even if the words don't necessarily give us the key to fully understanding what it means. We are the keys. We are the walking codes and codexes of technology. And however it is that we choose to see our reality is the key to us activating our fuller potentials. For each of us is a different storage system, if you will, even though we are all part of the same human technology genealogy, one might say. The way in which we access our genes, our genealogy, our DNA sequencing sets are different for everyone. Though we have referred to the 100th monkey effect as a general term of how this can work, we would venture to say that the human is much more complex than that, yet simple. I'm hearing simple human at the same time, for all can be accessed through the heart all of the time. Yet we are working within a time codex and a time, I'm seeing, let me just get back into it because I'm seeing a lot. It's difficult to put into words. And I'm kind of playing with this because I'm seeing a lot, I'm hearing a lot, I'm feeling a lot. So that's a perfect example of what my guidance system is kind of sharing. It's like I might experience all of those things. Somebody else might experience a connection or an activation by hearing a word or a sound. And I'm being called to dive into this a little deeper too. And while this is a positive, we would also direct your attention and energy just for a second, a blip, a blurb, to recognize that this is happening every time you turn on the tube. For when you tune into this tube or network, if you will, of an exchange of energy, this is always happening. The wordology that is being used and played through the spectacular display of the television, we assume is telling us the truth through this tube. We would venture to invite you to recognize, as you venture into this eye-opening exchange I'm seeing with the television, you are hearing certain words that attune you to a particular reality. So we would invite you to adjust the volume. We would invite you to adjust the channel. We would invite you to continually readjust and change the tune and the frequency in which you are tuning into the particular wordology that is being played through the tube, if you will. For many of us are activating ourselves from being in our heart. And when we tune into the technology of the internet or television, we will use that as a general term. We get locked into. So what I'm hearing is heart lock, like on heart math, versus locked into this tube that creates a sense of separation. We get pulled into a reality sector, if you will, that aligns with a particular sector, a particular lineup of energy in which creation is established. For is it not a creation that you are watching that has been created and put together in order to tell a story? That is a creation. And when you tune into that type of creation, I'm being referenced back to type again, like typing out a letter, a key, a font, a signature, a format, a code. That type that has been put onto paper or implanted into a screen to read, or through a script, if you will, you read that story. And you are not just reading it with your ears. You are not just reading it with your eyes. You are reading it with your emotions. You are responding to it through an emotional intelligence that is being played upon. For this is part of the creation of I keep hearing the tube. And I'm seeing like the old mail tubes, like drop-in mail. So we do invite you to reorganize and recognize what is being organized, to gather our attention and to pull us into those particular frames of reality. For some of these frames have been frozen in time, so to speak, and are seeking to pull us back into that particular time line by offering us a line of energy, of words, of frequency, of sound, of pictures that are oftentimes distorted or create an emotional cloud, I'm seeing like the internet, of distortion. While some is interlaced with beautiful stories and beautiful, I'm hearing graphics. So if I say a graphic, that's all a play on words, but behind me is a graphic. It's a picture that I took of the clouds. It's real, it's beautiful, but it's being shown as sometimes what's behind me it's a green screen. So even though that's real, it's not real right now. Oh, this is taking me into so many different levels. It looks like it's real. You know it's not, but that doesn't mean if you're watching it for the first time and you are reading a story, we're still emotionally responding to what it is we're watching, whether we realize it or not. And this may seem like old news to some of you, yet we are talking about the new way of energy being implemented in this new framework of creation. So while there are some new forms of technology that are beautiful and are lighting up I'm seeing the brain lighting up our synapses, there is also an old system that is trying to be rebirthed under the guise of being new. And we could say this branches into many different subjects, topics, and social, political, economic forums, if you will, that many of us are continually tuning into. So we would invite you to notice and recognize where you are giving your emotional energy to, what it is that you are valuing, for it values you from the aspect of energy. So what I'm being shown is power, money. Now this goes in both. It's not necessarily a negative. It can be positive, but we're being called to feel, is it positive? Is it having a positive impact on my body? My hormones? Is the cortisol in my body going up? Is my blood pressure being affected? Is my heart rate being affected? Am I in coherence? So if we can be in a place of neutrality, and again, heart math is always a good key. I've used the heart math equipment. I haven't recently, but it's fascinating now I kind of feel like I just know if something is positive or negative, or something I should be tuning into, or it's not good for me right now. With heart math, it's pretty cool because you think you're in coherence. Like, yeah, I got this. I'm in my heart. And then you look at the device or the app on your phone, and it tells you, no, you're not. You think you are, but your body is saying otherwise. So many of us have been misguided, we might say, but we would take this into a different train of thought right now. For even though this has been the case, and this is the way the old world was created, we were part of the creation, and we must see the beauty in all things at different times. So in this now moment, we can look back at this, and I'm hearing, I'm not going to fall for that again. But if we do, not to judge ourselves, and to visualize and see that even from a different point of view and a different perspective. So I'm just hearing beauty in all things, do our best to see. And I say our best because that doesn't mean we're always going to see some of the creations that man has created as beautiful. But again, the television can be used for beautiful things, and simultaneously, depending on what we're tuning into, can be used for very negative things. And this has an impact and a ripple effect in the medium of the reality in which we were all sitting within. Whereas before, the distortions were part of a sensory, I'm hearing a learning map. We are in okay, I'm just gonna have my little sip of coffee just for a second. I'm just seeing that reality is different. So if we were operating from a third dimensional reality that held a certain type of density that was more compacted, what I'm being shown is the ripple effect wouldn't be as fast. For whatever reason, I'm being shown that we're in a much more fluid state. So let's say, I'm going to compare states. Let's compare, I don't know, 2 different states in the United States. You go over the state line, and that state has heavier energy to it. You go back to this other state, and the energy is much lighter and freer. So, and I'm not going to pick on any particular states. It's a play on words. It's a state of awareness. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of reality. It's a state that we live in. And that is dependent upon where we live. So where we are vibrating. So what's happened is we are in a higher state. We've moved up, even though it doesn't feel like it necessarily for all of us. We're most of us, I don't want to speak for everyone. This is just what I see clairvoyantly. I see the energy around us being much more fluid. And also my guides have said that. So in the older paradigm, the things that were created, and this isn't 100% true, but it's a good analogy, didn't necessarily have as strong as an impact as quickly as they do now. Does that make sense? So I think so. Somebody could have done something over and over again, and then finally the lesson they learned, oh, okay, I get it, right? So that person might have felt dense. Like I've done that. I've done something over and over again. I'm like, gosh, what an idiot. How did I not see that the first 3 times? But it had an impact later down the road, number 1. Number 2, the impact that it had in the reality wasn't necessarily as strong. So it's like being in mud versus in water. If you drop a pebble in mud, it's not necessarily, that ripple effect isn't going to travel as far, and it may not travel at all. It might just get stuck. And we'll call that 3D. Now we're operating from these higher dimensions, and so it's clearer. So the sound travels farther and faster from one perspective. And this is just an analogy or a metaphor of what it is that are, like, why it's so important that we try to be in a place of higher vibration and coherence and from our heart. But don't panic is what I'm hearing. That's okay. We're in a space where as quickly as we do that, we can also retract, cancel, clear, delete that, reassess, and it's working on both ends. Does that make sense? So as quickly as we create something, we can shift it, providing that it's not something that's, a massive bubble, right? So granted, if you do something and let's say it's destroying the environment in a big way, versus little things, that's a little different. But we can shift. Let's say we were projecting something or thinking about something really negative, and we catch ourselves doing it because our environment is reflecting back to us those negative things. We can see it faster, meaning we can make the correction faster and go, oh, okay, I see what's happening. Let me shift that, cancel, clear, delete that previous projection. Let's reassess where we're at. There was a word that my guides have been using and I forgot it, but we'll just say reassess, and then we can get back into our hearts, our stream of higher consciousness, and stream from there. So I'm being shown TV channels. Like, are we going to stream? I won't name any TV channels, but what TV channel are we going to stream? Which one are we going to watch the most of? Which one are we going to buy into from one perspective? It's kind of like, don't panic, but just reset, reassess as often as we can. Okay. I feel like I want to end on this note and start a new video because now I'm going into the coils of time. So I'm going to do a part 2 and see where that takes us. So I hope that was helpful for someone. So I'm just being called to I'm going to write down coils of time so I don't get lost in the coils of time here. Okay, so again, tuning into the body, drinking a lot of water, feeling into, if something makes you feel yucky, it doesn't mean that you're avoiding it or bypassing it by not watching it. We're learning how to operate within this new reality, and we're still learning. It's not something that we are necessarily experts at. Oftentimes in the spiritual community, I hear people say we are masters. I've said that before, but we don't remember that we are necessarily. So we're all here. We're all mastering the way to create in this reality. We've mastered other realities before. So we are masters in embodiment. We're working towards mastery of this particular reality. We just may not be there yet from another perspective. And everybody's different. So what is really expansive for one person, they watch it and they feel really good. Somebody else may watch it and not feel very good. So maybe that person has something to learn from what they're watching. For me, I had to go down that rabbit hole of, I didn't have to, I chose to. And that's the other message that's coming through, is we're making a choice on where we put our attention. So don't beat ourselves up if we've been addicted to the news or addicted to really terrible television or horror movies or whatever it might be. Fine. We acknowledged it, we recognized it, and now we're shifting gears. And we're changing the frame of the movie when we do that, what it is that we're tuning into. And I'm seeing somebody go pause, fast forward, pause, fast forward. So it's like, okay, let's fast forward through that and let's focus on this. Anyways, there's so many different arenas and areas I could go with this wordplay. So I'm just gonna end on that note, and I'm gonna go into a different video about time. So thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. And yeah, please join me for part 2 if you feel called. And I'm trying to do more videos. I know I've had a lot of questions about ascension symptoms. I want to talk a little bit about the vertigo coming up again. And if you're new to my videos, some of this, if you aren't new, some of the things I'm talking about will be redundant because you've heard it before. But my guidance team is like, we're going to keep talking about this because it's going to continue to be relevant. And we forget. How often have you thought, oh, I'm going to drink tons of water today, and you do a great job for 2 days and then you forget And then all of a sudden somebody says, have you had any water today? And you're like, oh, yeah, so simple, right? Well, that's why I'm sharing some of the things I share, keep it simple star seeds, because we forget. And so my guides are like, we're going to keep talking about it because there might be one person out there that goes, oh, well, I haven't drank any water today. So I'll be showing this off in another video. Yeah, this is the Mac Daddy of water bottles, Mac Mama of water bottles, right? So important. But how often do we fill that up and then 2 days later it's still full? I've done that. So anyways, I'm going to end on that note. In love and light, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Namaste.